What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy BT, and today we've got these lovely handlebars that just came in from the Ruch Shop. I'm gonna go ahead and open that up. All right, so there you have it. You've got the handlebars, which will slide right through here. And you've got some nice opened ends here to insert some bar end mirrors. But in essence, this is what we're looking at right here. This will be the setup. Got our screws here to get everything held in there. Now, what we want to do is make sure that we get the right size mirrors for these bar ends. So I do have these mirrors here, but I'm not exactly sure if they're actually going to fit inside. So I am going to see if these will fit here. So yes, we have to make sure that we are getting the right setup for this bar end mirror. As you can see, this will fit inside here with no issue. The problem is this little mechanism right here will not fit. So we're going to go and get the measurements on here so that we get the right size mirror that will fit in the end of this bar. So with this tubing here, we're looking at roughly about 17 millimeters. So just make sure whichever bar end mirrors you get can fit in a 17 millimeter hole. All right, so a little bit of time has passed. We unboxed the Ruch Shop billet clip-on handlebars and quickly realized that we needed the proper mirrors to go into the opening. We're gonna need to purchase a set of grips. And while we're at it, might as well go ahead and get the throttle. Basically, it allows you to get more throttle without having to do the full turn. So we got that. And I think we should be now ready to get this handlebar installed. All right, so here's what we're working with today. The Ruch Shop billet clip-on handlebars. We've got the ends here. As you can see, those open ends are ready to go. Now we are gonna have to drill out some holes to transfer the stock equipment, but we also did pick up some risers. I think this is one of the major missing components. I think the handlebar is gonna sit too low, so we picked up some risers as well. And we've got these grips ready to go here. All right, so these are the new grips. Wow, they feel pretty good. Wow, I like it. Yeah, these feel really good compared to the stock ones. This was a good choice. So this one is going to be for the non-throttle side. This one's a little larger, as you can see here. To fit that inside, wow, this feels amazing. This is fantastic. Man, upgrades are so nice. Then we've got here our throttle end. Ah, there it is, okay. All right, so when we open this up here, I believe that this little piece on the end does come off so that we'll be able to use the end opening. I think it might just pop off. There we go. So that comes right out of there so that you will have access to insert your mirrors at the end of the handlebar, so that's good. I think we have everything that we need to get this job started. So there's the end cap right there. I'm gonna put that away. All right, so let's go ahead and get this job started. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and take a flathead and pry out these little covers here. So next what we're gonna do, let's go ahead and get these mirrors taken off. So I believe we're working with a 14 millimeter here. So we're gonna put one wrench on the bottom, one on the top. Get that loosened up. Okay, once you get that loose, you should be able to spin it right out of there. So there that goes. All right, so with our mirror out of there, now we can take these off Okay, so now that the mirrors are completely out, next up what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get these handlebars removed, but I'm going to have to use an impact wrench to get these out. All right, so we've got our impact driver here. We're going to go ahead and get the ends taken off. All right, so with those taken off, we're going to put a little bit of protection. Here we're going to lay some protection right over this here. All right, so next up what we need to do is we've got the levers to release, and then we also have the actual electronics on the ends. So go ahead with the first one. These are going to be an 8mm. All right, so we got that off. We're just going to put these screws back in here so nothing gets lost. Okay, so that takes care of that side. We'll go ahead and do the same to the other side. All right, now up underneath, if you can see here, we've got two spots. One here and one underneath. These are going to be Phillips. We're going to go ahead and remove both of these Phillips. Okay, so now that we have this release, we can go ahead and separate it. All right, so there we go. That's separated. And then this is the component right here that has to be drilled, a place has to be set to drill it out. So while we have this off, what we're going to do is we're going to measure and see which size fits into this particular opening. So the opening is measuring out to be a 3/16. So this is what we're going to use to drill out the hole when we get the other one set in place. All right, so we'll go to the other side and take those Phillips out. Okay, so now that we are able to separate that, now we can see this completely just slides off. All right, so this just slides off right here. So if we turn the handlebar a little bit, it's going to give us a little bit more wire to be able to pull this off. So now that we have this off, now what we're going to do is have to transfer the throttle cables over to this new one here. All right, so instead of getting distracted too much with that throttle side, we're going to go ahead and jump into removing the handlebars. But before we do that, we're going to have to release these cables that are holding the cords in place here. So we're going to go ahead. I think we just got to push down on this lever here. There we go. So then that releases this. We'll keep that right there in place. Same thing here. We're just going to release that tab there. Okay, now we're ready to remove these handlebars. And this is a 6mm. All right, so the handlebar is removed. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, we're going to open up our risers. And since these need much longer screws, I think we are going to put these to the side. So here are the risers. We're going to slide those right in place there. Wow, those look good. Okay, and then next we have our handlebars. We'll put those right in place there. And then in essence, this will slide right in here and screw into place. So far everything's looking pretty good. But before we lock this in place, we're going to go ahead, put some Loctite on this. So we're just going to get these snugged up real good. We will actually torque them down later, but we're going to go ahead and get everything nice and tight right now. Then we're going to jump back over to the 5. Get these nice and snug as we get everything situated. All right, so next we're going to grab our bars. We're going to slide these in flush to the end here. We're going to tighten that down. Okay, and then we're going to do the same to the other side. Get that flush and in place. So the next thing we're going to do now that we have that in place is we're going to get these grips put in place, but we're probably going to have to put some soapy water solution on there. I've got some soapy water solution here. I'm going to put a little bit on the grip and get that slid on. All right, so since the soap and water solution is not working, we're going to go ahead and get this laced with some full-blown soap on it, and hopefully that allows to slide this on a little easier. All right, so definitely gonna have to add some soap to that to get that moving on down there. All right, so now that we have that locked in place, we know we need to secure the switch and drill out that section there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna sit this in place here. As we tighten these screws, it's gonna make a mark. We're gonna use that mark and drill out the hole that's needed to secure this control in place. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually spin this around so we can see exactly where that hole is. Tighten this back down. So here you can see the marking. That's where we're gonna drill out. Again, we've got our 3/16 drill bit. We're gonna go ahead, drill this out. All right, now it doesn't have to be a super deep hole, but just enough so that when you put the control in there, it's going to sit in place the way that you want it to sit. So we're gonna go ahead, loosen this back up, turn this around, get our control set in place, making sure everything is gonna fit properly. All right, so the hole is good. Everything fits the way that it should fit. So now we're just gonna snug, get everything put back in the right place here, align everything with the hole, and tighten it down. We'll get our screws, put them back in, and the drilling is over. All right, so with that set in place, all we have to do now is get the lever put back on, and we should be good. Now, make sure you adjust this exactly where you want it to be from a comfortability standpoint as you're changing your turning lights and horns and switches. So once you get that set in place, then you can go ahead, tighten this down. Now, before we fully tighten this down, we're definitely going to make sure that we get a good set on this here. So it's only right that we throw a little Loctite on this before we get it set in place. All right, so next we've got the lever here. So we're going to get that set back in place. Okay, once you got that in place, we're about halfway done. Now for the mirrors, I have these Me Chow bike mirrors. Should be pretty good for this setup here. So inside the box, we've got the mirror, we've got an Allen key. So even though this is labeled as the left side mirror, based off of the way that it's sitting, I don't know that I'd necessarily want it to be this high. So I think for the purpose of this, I'm gonna go ahead and swap these around. So I'm gonna put the left on the right and the right on the left to get the look that we're going for here. All right, so far we're looking good here. Left side is looking good. So now we're gonna go ahead and transition over to the right side where now we have to deal with this throttle control. All right, so for this throttle side, we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna turn the bike this way, get this throttle set back on the bar. We're gonna align everything to sit right on the edge here. We're gonna tighten this down. There actually is one more spot that we need to drill, so we're gonna get that tightened down, find that location, drill it out, and get everything set. All right, so next what we're going to do is we're going to get this throttle put into this handlebar here. All right, attempt 2. We're actually going to use some silicone lubricant. We're going to spray it in and see if we can get that throttle to slide right in there. Much easier. I'm going to use the table as some support to help me slide this down. All right, so we see that that was pretty successful, getting that slit on there. And now we're going to go ahead and get everything situated and swapped out for the throttle. All right, so we've got our hole drilled out, and what I'm going to do is actually get this swapped over. So what I notice is that if I pull on this a little bit, you can actually slide it right out from the slot that it's sitting in. And I actually came across this by mistake. So what happened is it kind of slipped out. And so what that does is it gives you full access to go ahead and take out the cables and get them swapped over. So we're just going to go ahead, swap these cables over to the new. All right, so as you can see here, this is the stock throttle and this is the aftermarket one. You can see it's a lot fatter. So in order to get this set into the cradle section, we're gonna have to loosen the throttle cables from the bottom side in order to fit this, because this is much larger, and I don't think that we're gonna be able to slide that in too easily. This is actually seated, I think, too close, so it's actually causing a little bit of a challenge with this. So we might have to try and take this back out, but we're having a little bit of trouble getting this seated because this is flush up against the throttle cable. Worst case scenario, we're going to reuse the old one until we can get this one situated, but we're going to try to get this sorted out. So one thing I'm going to say after struggling with trying to get this back off, I think this little lip right here is what's causing the problem. I honestly don't see any need for that extra lip. If we cut this off, we'll get the extra clearance that we need. So we're going to go ahead, slice this off with the blade, and this should help with the installation. Okay, so we're able to cut that off. That looks much better. And here's your comparison. Look at that. Now we are actually ready to have a better installation here. And honestly, I'm not sure why it's on either side, because realistically speaking, you could probably cut it off the other side too. It's a much cleaner install. Look at that. So now when we slide this in here, it moves exactly the way it should. So cutting that off, definitely a must do. Okay, for the throttle, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take this nut out right here so we can get access underneath this cover here. All right, so with that cover off, now we do have access to this section right here. All right, so in order to get this set, what I did was I released the cable from the bottom. We're gonna go ahead and get it set in place, and then we're gonna have to readjust it from the bottom. So once I let that cable loose, it allows me to set this in place. All right, so to get this cable adjusted here, there's the bolt here. We're gonna go ahead and loosen this, and this should get us to the spot where we can get this thing adjusted properly, get it set back in place. So we're gonna loosen this up here, and with that loose, then we can pull it out. Then we should have enough clearance to get this set in place, get that right down where it needs to be, and we're gonna slide this back in place and then get everything snugged, fitted back in, and then we should be good to go. Okay, so now when we pull our throttle, everything looks pretty good. All right, so with that set, I'm gonna get this cover put back on here. Okay, so with everything set with the new throttle in place, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna slide this in, get that situated. All right, so now that we are able to get our throttle side all situated. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take everything here and get it snugged into place where it's gonna fit. So then we're gonna have to loosen this up here. Loosen this up, spin it around so that we can get this fit in the right section, right where the cutout is for the hole. Get that fit appropriately. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and put our screws in, and then all we'll have left is the lever. All right, so we are almost done with this job. The only thing that we have left to do is we need to add some Loctite to these bolts right here that we didn't finish off yet. So we're going to get some Loctite on these and then wrap this job up. So all that's left to do is to get this last mirror installed and the job is complete. Now, one thing we forgot was to put some grease on that throttle side. So we're gonna have to go ahead, open that up, get some grease on there. All right, now there was a little bit of grease in there, but what we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and get some grease on the throttle itself. So what I'm gonna do is take some of this and just wedge it right in there. Keep that nice and lubricated. And I think for this side too as well, I'm gonna cut off that excess on this side also. All right, so cut the edge off, it'll do you good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. It's complete. This is a completely different looking bike with this new handlebar setup. So let's check it out and see what it looks like. And I'll be sure to leave a link in the description for all the products we used in today's video. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so there you have it. The Ruch Shop billet clip-on is installed with the 1.5 inch riser. It looks absolutely amazing. This is a completely different bike. We're gonna have to get some screws to fill in these holes right here. But other than that, it looks good. I am very pleased with the way this turned out. Definitely did a good job on choosing some grips here. So these Domino grips are absolutely phenomenal compared to the stock ones. It's your boy BT. I really hope you guys enjoyed this one because I surely did. I will catch you guys on the next one.